Alright, third time's the charm.
3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pixel Venture podcast, or hello for the first time if you're jumping in now, which if you are, I'm sorry, but my name's Corey.
I don't know how you would have gone here. I'm Jake.
And we don't have anything planned for this episode.
Yes, we do.
What do you mean?
That's a lie. We have stuff planned.
Wait, do you? Because I have no topics going into this.
We talked about it, just the other day. Well, obviously, we can always talk about The Witcher.
Is that another tally mark just because we mentioned it?
Yes.
Cool. Jake, throw it in now.
Okay.
Or you could throw
Don't
it
tell
in.
me what to do.
Or you could throw it in back before when we first mentioned it, but now throw another one because we mentioned it again.
I'm the captain here.
All right.
I'm the editor.
Where's your little hat?
I have the power.
Where's your little
I
captain
can give
hat?
myself a hat.
What kind?
Whatever I want, dude. I am God.
I don't see any god up here except for me.
For me, I definitely have to put that up now.
And just put your head on it. Oh
My God.
That's going on the shelf.
So there's The Witcher. We could talk about Stranger Things. It would have been out for over a week now.
Yeah, is it within the frame of time where we could talk about spoiler stuff? Or do you think that's too early?
Let's save it to the end. I feel like there was a third thing. I don't remember the third thing.
I mean, there's the thing that was announced today.
Oh, right.
The Nintendo Switch Lite. $200, which is $100 off the original model's price, which removes the camera that can sense certain shapes and distance. It also has the actual Joy-Con built into the model. So what it looks like for me is just what the Wii U Switch kind of concept was, which was just the gamepad.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's some good in that, but there's also a lot of bad, because what they said flat out in the note was if there's certain games that you want to play that are heavily reliant on the motion controls and everything, you need to buy a separate Joy-Con. And since you can't connect them to this system like you would with the original model, you have to get a charger for that. So that's why I believe they're pricing it at $200, because if you want that extra hardware, it's going to be roughly $300.
I see it as just a portable console that's only $200 that you can run pretty big name games on. Other than some of the Switch exclusives that won't work with it because of the lack of the full stuff of the regular Joy-Cons and stuff.
Rest in peace, 1-2 Switch gang.
Is that a big problem though?
Dude, they're never going to be able to experience the Milkin minigame.
Again, is that really a problem though?
Or counting how many balls are in a block or whatever.
Yeah, dude. Dude, how are you going to be able to tell how many ice cubes are in your glass?
They shake the whole system. 1.
There's a single cube.
Yeah. Oops, it's the CPU. It got detached.
Oh, God.
I think the number one thing, though, is that you know who this is marketed toward. This is for, people who are very hesitant with the Switch because of the price point. And this is, it's kind of like what they did with the 3DS, with the 2DS, where the original 3DS, I believe, was super expensive for a while. Then they brought the price down to $270. And then the 2DS came out, and that's $70 now. And so,
Oh yeah,
it's definitely removing like the motion control type stuff as well as the sensor, that definitely brings the price down a lot, because then there's no need for the Bluetooth feature. There's no need for like more manufacturing costs, because it's just one contained system. And also, I think that selling them as like colored systems, I think that's cool, because that actually opens up a lot more of like a market, because a lot of people actually were put off by the Switch because of how basic the color scheme was, and that's why they compensate with the different colored Joy-Con controllers, and people make like skins for the Switch, like actual stickers that you can throw on.
Mm-hmm.
And so like having the yellow, the blue, and I believe silver, was it? I'm not sure, but
No, I think
having
it's
those
just
options,
gray,
but like having those
yellow,
options
and
though,
turquoise.
yeah, having those options though, I think is great, because I know that there are people in my life who, if they see something yellow, they hardcore debate whether or not they can buy it.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to Whitney. But yeah. I like to imagine that you take like her head at that point, you like just jump up from the screen, just like woohoo. But yeah, no, I think my main concern though is definitely like how games will feel on there, because there's some games that you're not going to experience much change, like if you play Enter the Gungeon or Crypt of the Necrodancer, like
Or The
those
Witcher.
games. Yeah, those games are going to feel exactly the same, because, you know, it's a dedicated just face button control scheme type stuff. But a game like Mario Odyssey, as much as I'm not a huge fan of it, there are certain moves that you can only do with the motion control, such as throwing the hat directly upward or down. There's certain like other maneuvers that you can only do with that, like shake the controllers in order to pick up speed with the bullet bill, or shake to throw things faster as the hammer brother. And so I see that as sort of hindering gameplay unless they find ways to compensate that, like making those actual motions for at least those games based on presses rather than the sort of flailing of the remotes, because even then it was kind of inaccurate. This is the part where you talk.
I mean, if you're the kind of person who like plays the Switch to play it on the go, I think this is fine. Like, if you want to play like Breath of the Wild or any game like Doom or any other game that doesn't really focus on like the Joy-Con controls and like the things like that, I think it's fine. It's just a portable console that it's a portable console.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing, is that like that kind of throws me off, is that there's people who have been saying like, where it's like, finally I can take my Switch on the go, when the whole concept of Switch is for it to be a system that you can take outside the home and also keep in your house. Like for me, I play almost exclusively in handheld mode, where if this model was offered as like the launch one, I probably would have taken it. However, I think that there's a lot of fun and just the novelty of having like independent controllers that still work together, where I could be lying down in my bed in any position that I want and still be able to play the game. Like, that's incredibly appealing to me.
I mean, with the Lite Switch, and you can't tell me it's named anything else. Like, it is overall going to be like slimmer, and since like I feel like it's going to be more compact in general, just because like it doesn't. I mean, I don't have a Switch, so I can't really speak too much, but it feels like there's a lot of accessories, I guess, that go with it that you just wouldn't need for the light switch.
Yeah, like the TV dock would be completely negated because they said it wouldn't be compatible.
You don't need that. You can apparently connect other JoyCons to the light switch, but I don't really know why you would do that because you can only play games on the screen that it comes with. So you'd have to be doing it like over the shoulder.
Yeah.
Which like I don't really see that being very efficient. So that might not even be like a huge issue of having like extra Joy-Cons or anything.
I think what that comes down to is like for the option to connect more controllers, that's like road trip stuff. Like friends are in a car or a small space for an extended period of time. Hey, you want to play Smash? And you just like pull out a Joy-Con, or maybe someone else has their normal Switch and they can just quickly connect it, because I know that you don't have to necessarily pair by swiping in to the system, although that's like a very quick and easy way to do it. You can press the button and kind of cue it up like the Wiimote for like the Wii systems. But I don't know, it's just weird for them. Like, I understand why, to get like, you know, a lower price point, better entry level thing, have that release in the fall, and then you have Pokemon releasing in the winter. Like, those are going to be two big releases. Those are going to fly off the shelves for the holiday season and really pick up momentum for the system again. Because the system has been kind of like, they haven't been falling off, but as far as like sales are kind of slowing down. So definitely offering a new model that's cheaper, that's more consumer friendly. Like, and that's crazy to say because, you know, it's Nintendo. Like, everything they do, they try to be as like appealing to the everyday consumer as possible. Like, I don't know, I just I think the main thing that just kind of frustrates me is I really enjoyed the Joy-Con. Like, I know there's a lot of people who prefer to use the Pro Controller, or they connect like a different adapter, another one. I think those controllers, like, by themselves, I think they're fantastic. And it's one of my favorite controllers that Nintendo has ever released, up there with the GameCube controller. Just because it's just very comfortable. Or I needed to get used to like the size of them, because for anyone who hasn't actually used a Switch, they're quite smaller than like a Wiimote.
They're terribly tiny.
And that's why, like, another thing that people like about the new model of Switch is that they've actually increased the size of the thumbsticks and replaced the button D-pad with the legitimate, like, full D-pad. And that might be enough to actually make me curious enough to pick one up for myself just to mess with it. Because, like, again, I don't know any of the specs as far as like what it'll be running, but I'm assuming that it'll run exactly like the base version. That they're not going to like cut corners as far as that goes. Because if they cut corners as far as like handheld quality goes, I'm out. Because it already runs at like 720p when most consoles, for like handheld consoles, are able to run at least a little bit more powerful. Like, I know the Nvidia Shield can do 1080. And that's already kind of something that makes it like, so if they made it less powerful, that's like a deal breaker for me. That's why I'm really intrigued to see what the quote unquote Switch Pro will be like, because they've talked about like doubling the power of the system. And I would love to see what that opens up. Like, if games like Doom and Wolfenstein and Witcher would get like these huge graphical upgrades and things like that. Because like, looking at Doom on Switch, it's crazy that you have that on a Nintendo console, but it looks like it's chugging along at like medium settings. if we're able to get to a point where Doom looks as good on Switch as it does on like the average PC, like I'd be more than happy with that. But yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about the console.
Yeah, that's about everything.
I think because there's actually been like a lot of interest in just news in general happening recently.
Yeah.
Did you hear the the fake news thing about Belle Delphine?
Fake news?
So,
What did you hear?
For anyone who is not as cultured as many are on the internet.
Cultured is a word.
Yeah, cultured is a word. I frankly did not know who she was until this. And
Really?
I'm actually a full supporter of her now. Like, you go girl kind of thing. So, she's done a few things in the past. She's an online influencer in I hate using that word, but she's a
gamer girl.
She has a very big following. She does like cosplay stuff, I think. I'm not too terribly sure. But I know that in the past she made a joke with her subscribers or followers or whatever that she would post 18 plus videos on a separate website, and when they went on, it was just like videos of her petting like stuffed animal chickens and eating pictures of YouTubers. And people got pissed over that. And so, riding that wave of people being butthurt and her just fully embracing the meme, she's selling $30 jars of bathwater that she claims she sits in. And that's not where the story ends, because that, like, for a lot of people who have been on the internet for the past week or so, they know about it. There was
and if you've ever been on the internet, then you know that it only took like 3 days for all the bathwater to be sold out. And you can guess what they tried to do with that bathwater.
Well, there's two things. One, people are trying to resell it for thousands of dollars. And two,
of course,
there is a fake article that was circulating around about how someone got an STD by drinking the bathwater.
People have been drinking it, and I can't tell how real it is, but apparently people have like gone to the hospital over it. I have no idea how real those articles are.
I don't believe they are, because she had to make a public statement of being like, none of that is true, and anyone who drinks that, they deserve it, because they drank her bathwater. They paid $30 to drink a random girl's bathwater. That's honestly...
So she is admitting that it is
so
bathwater
gross.
then.
Yeah, no, that's the whole point.
No, like, some people thought that, like, it would just be jars of water. Like,
so you spent...
based on, like, legal issues.
You spent $30 on a jar of bathwater, and you're like, man, fresh from the tap, let's go.
It could be from the tap. That way she wouldn't have to face any, like, possible legal issues of, like, people getting sick over it. If there isn't a warning that says, don't drink it.
There's probably a warning on it, but in all the glamour shots they have of the jar...
But nobody cares about
it. It's such a meme at this point that, like, hell, there have been other YouTubers making jokes about selling their bathwater, seeing how successful it was. Or Super Mega did a short video of one guy's on it, Ryan McGee, just sitting in a bathtub and he's eating like a Reuben with it falling into the water. I don't know.
I think my favorite part so far has been the Pornhub account, because all of the videos have like completely like unapologetic clickbait titles, and it is, like you said, the most innocent stuff. Like, one of them is like Belle Delphine strokes two cocks, and she literally just has like two chickens on her
Yeah.
bed that she's like petting.
Or the thing, what was the PewDiePie thing?
It's like PewDiePie goes all the way inside Belle Delphine, and she just eats a picture of him.
And I'm just like, I can fully support that because, like, okay, that's a different subject change, and I think we're okay with that. Is that there are people on like those websites who just upload random stuff,
Yeah.
and I think that's the funniest thing. I mean, hell, who is that guy? There's this guy who literally uploaded like videos where it's like, I talk to you in the cab and don't have sex with you, or something like that. What's his name?
I think I know who you're talking about.
Or it's like, I
And
tuck you in bed.
If I'm thinking of the right one, he had one video that was, I play Overwatch and do not want to have sex with any of the characters. It like is so explicit about how it's not like porn.
Apparently, he's been making money from it though.
Apparently.
And you know what? That's another thing I can support is just like, because I remember, I forget who wanted to show it to me, but they literally just sent me like a link to, the big one's called Pornhub, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it is, Corey.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't know any of that. But like, he sent me like a link, and I was like, dude, I'm not clicking that. And he's like, no, do it. And so I was like, fine. And so I clicked that, and of course you see like the banner ads where it's like, God, what's the one? What was the one that it said where it was just like, first I'm going to cut your hair, then I'm going to suck your dick, or something like that. It was supposed to be like a hairdresser thing. I don't know. It was weird, but like, the video was literally of just this guy going and like opening a door and delivering a pizza and leaving, and it's like 20 seconds long. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I hope this guy has more stuff. Yeah. That was like one of the few experiences that I have with any of those websites. The other one that I have is well, there was two. One of them was somebody uploaded a video of a man in a wheelchair wearing a Sonic the Hedgehog outfit eating a chili dog. And then the other one was someone was re-uploading a full playthrough of Pokemon Platinum on there by a YouTuber that I like. And so I was like,
yeah.
Huh.
And that's all there is on the website. The entire website, that's all it is.
Yeah. You know what? I like to think that that's what it is. Like, I'm going to keep that image in my mind that it's just a meme board that people shit post on.
It's okay. You can learn more about it when you're older.
Oh my god. I don't have any desire to figure any of that stuff out.
You know what I do have a desire to figure out? How good the Netflix Witcher series is going to be.
Another tally mark. Let's throw it on.
Because I honestly cannot tell.
I mean, they're definitely going more with the books. That's what I can sort of grasp from at least the promotional photos.
They're so close, but they did one oopsie that half the internet is calling an oopsie.
Are you talking about the medallion?
No. Since we're like getting into it now, I can talk about it since I've been reading up on it a little bit more. So the people making the Witcher series on Netflix have been releasing like a couple of pictures to kind of, I'm guessing, like build up hype and stuff. And some of it have been like set pictures of the characters. A lot of people focused on Geralt because he's kind of the main character. They've definitely taken a lot of strides away from the games, which is to be expected because they are following the books a lot more closely. Like, in the pictures that we see, Geralt is only carrying one sword with him instead of two, because that's actually accurate to the books. The second sword, which is a silver sword as opposed to a steel sword, is meant to be kept on the Witcher's horse because silver is supposed to be specifically used for very certain monsters, and I think it's like vampires and one other kind of creature, which in the games they changed it to be all monsters because that made the sword more prevalent and not like very niche use.
Yeah, and it also just looked cooler for the design to have him have two swords.
It looked cooler, and you also didn't have to run back to your horse every time you wanted to fight a monster. So that's accurate. The medallion caught my eye, and it caught a lot of people's eyes because it's not what we were familiar with. What I didn't realize at first is the reason why they changed the medallion is because that medallion that everyone is familiar with is a CDPR property now.
Oh.
So they legally could not use that medallion. I have no idea if the producers of the show ever talked to CDPR, if they ever got in contact about it, or like what's going on between those, but apparently that's why they're going with a very drastically different look on the medallion.
Like, yeah, no, like that makes sense because it's like maybe they just didn't even talk to them because they're like maybe like they would just like freak out because it's like they don't want to confuse maybe the game property with the show property because it's like taking a different turn.
Maybe. And I don't know if the books ever like flat out describe what the medallion looks like. So it could just be their way of like making it different and making their own logo for the show. Another thing that caught my eye that's a little bit less about sticking to the books or anything, but the armor to me looks a little sketchy. Because as far as I can tell, it kind of looks like studded leather, which wasn't really a common kind of armor. It's supposed to be a realistic
You're breaking my
fantasy.
immersion, you whore.
I bet it's not even laminate. Yeah, unless like all the studs are attached to like small metal plates on the other side of the leather, which wasn't even a common armor crafting material. It was used, but not incredibly prevalently to my knowledge. But that's just a small nitpick on my behalf.
I don't know. I'm frankly like, I'm excited to see what they do with the series, especially after what happened with Game of Thrones, because what I think they're going to do is that they're going to take sort of steps from like what has been learned from the result of the final season and kind of take that and see sort of like, okay, this is what we got to avoid doing. We got to explain things here. We got to like make things smooth. Like I have a lot of faith in the property actually. While there are like certain details that feel a little out of it, I think overall we're in for something that will be enjoyable. And if not, then it would be like a cool one season experiment.
I do have one more little detail that I want to share with you in case you haven't heard it. It was released a while ago, back when they announced a lot of like the casting roles. So, The Witcher, if you didn't know, is a Polish property written by a Polish author based on Polish folklore and mythology. So it makes sense why a lot of the characters in the main continent are mostly white ethnically.
Mm-hmm.
And the producers of the show decided to cast a very prevalent character as a black actress, which got some people into a little bit of an uproar. Which, because they turned it into a racism thing, blew up for its few seconds of fame when it was announced.
I
If you have any comments on
frankly
that.
I hate that when I understand wanting to be like faithful to source material, but you also need to be open to interpretation. Because like this is actually something else I can tie into it is the announcement of the actress for the Little Mermaid live action, which I mean I have some opinions on the live action movies themselves, but we'll save that for a little bit later. But people were angry because of the actress that they chose, and it's like I don't really care at the end of the day like who the actress is and what they look like or whatever. I just care about how they can present the character. And whether or not they visually look the way that you would want them to be or the way that you imagine them, like if that doesn't match up, that's fine. Like this is a dumb example, but when I went to see was it Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief when I was little, I was a huge fan of the books, and when I went there I was so confused about how certain characters looked because I was like, that's not the way that I thought they looked. Wow, I can't believe they didn't get the image that was in my head. I mean, this of course, like this problem has to do with the lore, with it being like regionally based on certain things, but you also need to accept that this is also a fantasy setting, which could open the doors to having more diversity, more changes, things like that. Of course, like, since it is based on like the lore of there's going to be like certain details that's like, okay, you need to make sure you hit these, but as far as like who they pick for the actress, it's none of my damn business. If they do a good job, then hell yeah. I don't know, sort of, is that kind of how you feel, or are you more just like try to stay as faithful as possible? Because that also leads into a discussion of, is there a correct time where a cast could be all like one type?
Now, I might get a bit of flack about this because obviously I said the N-word on a previous episode of the podcast. but personally, like the short version is I don't think it's a great idea. And to kind of clarify, I'm not at all doubting the actress's ability, and I wouldn't even blame her at all. If anything, like she might not have even known like what the role was specifically. It could have been her, like, one of her agents, or like, there's also the casting director that had to have known what they were doing when they made the choice. So I don't think I'm going to say like, oh, like it's their fault, or like, oh, like it was a huge mistake. But I thought it was interesting that you brought up how like it's a fantasy world, so that like it can open up the possibility to diversity and things like that. Which I kind of get that sort of argument, but at the same time, I kind of see it in the opposite way, where like it's a fantasy, but like fantasy still has rules to it, and it can still have like reason. Like you can do it. you can have the option of doing like whatever you want with it. But I feel like for something like The Witcher, like it's the lore is set the way that it is, and that's just the way that it's written. And like it's not like it doesn't have people of like other ethnicities in it. Uh, they are in there in the lore. In fact, they're actually in the games as well. But like they come from their continent, kind of like in real life. Like you,
I
yeah.
think I understand.
I could go in like all about it, but I feel like if I go into it more, I'm probably going to dig myself into like a hole that I'm not trying to get into, because like it is just me like talking and talking. It's not like a back and forth kind of dialogue with like other people other than
Yeah.
like you.
I don't know. I totally understand
But
sort
yeah,
of like, because that was one thing that I was kind of thinking of while I was talking, where it's like, sure, it's a fantasy world, but there can be like predetermined rules and stuff like that. Like it's not all free verse, open world, whatever kind of thing.
like
I don't know.
I'm not like so opposed to it that I would like, sign a petition or like, not watch Dev Spite.
Yeah, it's just that there's like the part of you that's going in kind of wary.
Like I'm a little wary, and I would even make the argument of like it's perfectly fine to do that, but like it's a weird area to like not be faithful, I guess. Like you can't say you're completely faithful if you're taking those kinds of liberties. Like to an extent. Because like again, like it is like set the way that it is. And since racism in other ways plays a huge part of like The Witcher, it just seems like interesting in a way. And again, I'm not going to like, not watch it out of spite or anything like that. I'm just going to hope that like I'm sure she was casted for a reason, and so I just hope that she does an amazing job with it, and that's about it.
Yeah, like it all comes down to performance.
Yeah.
But since I mentioned it a little earlier, there's a small, not really rant, more just opinion I want to put out there. You know how there's been like, the Lion King live action, the Aladdin one, the Little Mermaid one
Mulan.
that's coming, yeah, Mulan.
Yep.
I think those are fine and dandy, but they also piss me off so
Really?
much. Because one of the things that I like, one of the things I saw recently was a side-by-side comparison of the beginning of The Lion King with the Circle of Life, of like the original animation and then the new one, and like the caption of it was, "Look how far we came in animation." And I was like, yeah,
Oh.
you desaturated the color palette and took away all of the interesting shots. Like literally they try so hard to make it seem fantastical, like what, or that's not even a word, I'm pretty sure. They try to make it like seem like otherworldly and like crazy and stuff like that, and like yet they also want to be realistic with it, and that just does not mesh well for me. I'm fucking terrified of how they're going to like show was it Mugen is the dragon's name in Mulan.
Something like that.
I am
yeah.
terrified of how they're going to represent him, because if they just have him be a goofy ass little dragon with like all these like important characters. I didn't watch the trailer, so I don't know if he was shown. But like, I just there's magic to animation. There's magic to the 2D animation that gets lost in this translation of people getting super hyped about like, look, it's the Lion King, but it looks like lions and not like pencil things. And it's just like, whatever. I prefer like having the vibrant color palettes and having it be like that certain degree.
I'm still stuck up on the whole look how far we've gone in animation when it's two completely different styles. It'd be like, oh, look how far we've gotten in like art, and it's just like a comparison between like a photorealistic landscape and like an abstract like red line on a white canvas. It's like they're two completely different things that you can't really say like it's a jump. Like they're just different things.
Yeah, and one of them is more boring than the other.
Yeah, 2D animation is more boring. Stop watching cartoons.
Literally, I'm okay. There's some 3D animation that I really, really enjoy, but then there's others where it's like, we're going to try to make it seem as real as possible, where it just feels wrong to watch that. And it would have been better if they did more live action stuff. Like, that's why I never went to see Aladdin, and why, like, I'm not going to see The Lion King, and I'm not going to see Mulan. Like, I'll watch them if they're playing on airplanes, and that's it. Like, I'm not jumping at the bit to try to see these films that I've already seen, and frankly probably would be better in that animated style.
Dude, I've been in this habit of watching a lot of like behind the scenes CGI and stuff for like films, and I'm always just completely amazed by like how they problem solve how to do things. And it's like the craziest shit sometimes.
I mean, like, I respect that. I respect the art. I respect the fact that there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. But if they ever touch Brother Bear, I'm going to throw hands. Because that movie is perfect. And you can't just go in and be like, we're going to make it live action. The only live action Disney thing that I would support is like Atlantis.
Don't touch Atlantis. Let it be its own thing.
All right, then Treasure
Also,
Planet.
don't... Oh, no. That's a national treasure. That's a national treasure planet.
Dude, I've only watched half of that film. I've never seen the last bit of it.
I think Atlantis and Treasure Planet are like tied for my favorite Disney movies.
For me, it's...
Fight me.
I'm not going to, but I will say it's Atlantis, Brother Bear, and actually the original Goofy movie. Because that movie proved to me that Goofy is the most like deep character in the entirety of the Disney canon. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
Literally, there is a scene where Pete is talking to Goofy about how to raise kids, and Pete's like talking about his boy or whatever, and he's talking about like how Goofy should go about like disciplining Max, and Goofy literally gets up and just stares at him and just like, you never tell me how to raise my boy. And like there's one scene in that, it's a scene with like alphabet soup, because they just have a can of alphabet soup with their food or whatever, and it's after this whole sequence where they're trying to wait out a Yeti who like is stealing their stuff or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're just sitting in their car, and they're talking about how Max used to spell things with his soup, and they're going back and forth as like a joke, and then Goofy gets to, you'd also say, I love you. But like before he could say like love you or whatever, he cuts off and they both just go quiet. And Max ends up falling asleep. And then Goofy looks inside the can and it says, hi, Dad. And Goofy starts crying. He says, hello, son.
Oh my god.
And there's actually a musical like sequence where it's like a traffic jam that I think is really, really well done. But the thing is that that film had like the budget slashed in half for it, and you can kind of tell. Mm-hmm. But I still think that it's a really, really fun film.
You know what else I think is going to be really fun? Since we're on the topic of like animated stuff, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but I feel like if you haven't, you need to hear about it.
Is it the Cuphead animated series?
Yes.
I have a lot of hope for it. I mean, yes, it's going to be targeted towards kids, but I have an idea of kind of the style that they might go for. And
The co-creator has said that they want to stay far away from computer-assisted animation,
that makes
which would imply it is going to be very close, if not exactly like the animation used in the game.
it's not going to be hand-drawn. It will be digital. Like that was confirmed.
Well, it can be. It might be digital, but it can still be like hand-drawn digital.
Yeah.
As opposed to like
Instead of using
like flash animation.
It's not going to be flash. It's going to be like nice, like smooth movements. But the thing that I'm hoping for, I want that show to play out like Animaniacs.
Yeah,
I feel like that would
like
work.
the older school animation.
I feel like that would work so well for the humor of the game and the humor in the characters.
Yeah.
And also, like, since it's going to be a show that's like more targeted towards kids but still have adult stuff, how are they going to incorporate like certain boss characters? Like, you have Warner, who like smokes a cigar in like his intro animation. You have like there's a boss that's literally a giant cigarette.
I mean, I don't know how much has been like released about it, and I haven't read like
It's just the
too
poster
much
so
about
far.
it. But yeah, but, like they could do it like a Saturday morning like superhero kind of cartoon, and just like the bosses are just the bad guys.
Sad AM
that they
Sonic
face
the Hedgehog,
episode to episode.
but Cuphead. Oh my god. And can Cuphead please
dude.
have like those little like PSA tip things, like the thing with was it Sonic the Hedgehog, where it's like, if someone's touching you in a way that you don't feel safe, that's no good.
Oh my god.
I would love that.
If a stranger touches your chili dog in the middle of an alleyway.
That's no good. Hey, you know what?
Yeah.
You know where you could find a chili dog?
Yeah.
At a fair. Let's talk about Stranger Things.
Spoiler warning.
Yeah, throw up the logo and throw up the, well, you could throw up the like Stranger Things logo maybe on the TV, and then like the spoiler thing somewhere else, and then throw up like a timestamp, I guess, for people to skip.
And a gravestone for Alexi.
We haven't gotten past the warnings yet.
Yeah, we have. We already put up a
Well,
warning.
yeah, but like usually you wait a few seconds.
Rest in peace, Alexi.
It's okay. Here's my takeaway from the season. I need to stop liking characters.
Really?
Every character that I've enjoyed in this series has died. You got Bob in season 2, and now in this one you have Billy, and then Hopper, who might be dead. And Steve, I thought Steve was going to bite the bullet when the Russians were interrogating him.
Yeah.
And
then they injected them with marijuana.
with blue marijuana.
I learned from the very beginning that any liked character could die ever since they killed Benny in episode 1.
Yep.
Just for finding 11. I'm like, oh, he's a pretty cool character. He's gonna be a lot of fun. And then they killed him. And I'm like, alrighty then, Hopper. I'm just gonna, keep him at a distance.
I think that definitely set the tone and everything, but there's still like a part of me where I just wanted to believe that Alexi would make it.
Yeah, they really made it seem like he could have.
Well, I feel like that's really good writing on their part, because like all he wanted was some slushies and Woody Woodpecker. And
He just wanted his cherry icy and his Looney Tunes,
yeah,
and
and he
that's
popped
it.
some balloons, and then Terminator came out of nowhere and just went like traitor, and shot him with a super soaker, and then he got his favorite shirt wet, and then his mom got real angry.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it happened.
And then there's Hopper that uh is dead unless he's not, because some theories say that he escaped with the Russians who somehow disappeared from the lab. Some people think he could have gone. Actually, continuing that theory, he could be the American spoken about in the
You don't see the
post-credit
human
scene.
blob. That's my thing. Is that in the first episode when
Yeah,
it goes haywire and people get fried, you see blobs of human, but like you don't see that with
yeah.
Hopper. I mean, to be fair, they were standing on like Graydon, but like,
There would still
and
be like
also that
residue.
point where Joyce like closed her eyes, and then like it shows the explosion. You don't see
Mm-hmm.
Hopper. So like,
Yeah.
what?
My first thought, or a theory that was kind of like a joke theory, is he could have gone to the Upside Down and he's just waiting there. Which, considering no one knows he's there and nobody is planning on opening the gate anytime soon, he could easily be there for like a long, long while with literally nothing to protect himself.
But see, the thing is that ending scene kind of explains a lot, because during the season, Alexei explained that they were trying to open a hole to the Upside Down in Russia, but it was really difficult because that area still has like very strong barrier, but in Hawkins it's weak,
Yeah.
and that's why they went there, because they were
Mm-hmm.
testing the like sort of laser drill miner thing in Russia. So who's to say that while everything's happening in Hawkins, they get it successfully? That's how they have a Demigorgon, and that's how they possibly retrieved
Mm-hmm.
Hopper, because they opened the portal, figure out that there's some other person that's in there, and take him to try to see what he knows about the Upside Down.
I thought that the way that they explained it was like the reason why they couldn't get it to open in Russia is because there wasn't like a clear gateway to the Upside Down like there apparently seems to be in uh Hawkins. And so that's why
Mm.
they moved over there as opposed to trying to open it in Russia. I thought the Demogorgon that they had in the post credit scene was a sign that they had genetically engineered their own uh, Demogorgon, because we had never. It looked like one of the dogs, the Demodogs, if you will, but it stood up on its hind legs at the end, which we've never seen one of them do. They always ran on all four, and I don't remember them being as like pale white as they showed in the ending. So I feel like that was a sign that like they made their own Demogorgon.
I mean, that's quite possible, but there's also just like, we did see the Demigorgon in the first season. It was like very dimly lit, or the lights were flickering.
Yeah,
We never got like a full shot of it.
maybe.
Um,
But that's just my thought. And it would explain why like after the gate was closed and we never saw one open, why there would still be one.
Wait,
That
I
was
just
just
thought of
my
a thing.
little oh.
So wait, season two at the like end when it's panning up to the building, isn't there a Demigorgon on the roof, or is it a Demidog?
At the end of season 2,
Yeah, like during the school dance, it like pans out and it's like the outside scene.
if I remember correctly, the end of season 2 had the shadow monster on top, the mind flare, over like on top of the school. Because it
Hmm.
was like in the real world after they had closed the gate, and it like immediately cut to the school and the Upside Down, and it had the shadow monster over it.
Okay, because I was just trying to remember, because if I remember that correctly, what I was going to say is it was the Demogorgon. Then that would explain like how the Russians have it, because they captured it while they were in Hawkins, like acquiring Lite and everything,
Yeah.
and then like shipped it back to Russia to do tests on it, and that's how they create like that clone.
I mean, they allegedly had the gate open, or they pretty much had to have had the gate open the entire time that the Demogorgons were attacking people and abducting them. So they definitely had plenty of time to like experiment, since they seemed to be working on that like 24/7.
There was one joke, as far as like with Hopper and the portal, when people were sort of exchanging ideas with that theory, where it was the portal was open at least 3 inches, so he had to get in.
Oh my god. I heard as to why they killed off Hopper specifically. Basically, from my understanding, the reason why they killed him off is because at the time of filming, it was not sure whether or not the actor was going to be needed for a role in Hellboy 2. So in case he needed to be called in for that, they basically killed him off, like, in case he would be needed for that.
But they left it
But considering-
ambiguous.
Ambiguous? And considering how the first Hellboy didn't really seem to do all too well, I think...
Wait, was that
it's
released?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it was released. Exactly.
Because I saw trailers and stuff, and then nothing.
Yeah, there were a ton of trailers for it. And that's the end.
I thought that it was going to release later this year.
I am going to double check right now.
Because if it's out now, oh my god. Because I loved the Hellboy movies.
That released April 12th.
Are you kidding me?
No. April 12th of this year.
What?
Had a budget of 50 million and had a box office of 46 million. So yeah.
No sequel.
So Hopper's coming back.
Yeah. maybe they originally had the edit where it's like the human glob bits on the catwalk, but because they realized like how bad that did, they were just like, oh shit, edit it out.
Yeah, it is. It's something.
Damn. I want to watch it.
Like I don't think it could have ever compared to the original Hellboy movie.
Well, it looked like a cosplay.
Like,
that's the main thing, is that it looked like a Comic-Con cosplay. It didn't feel like Hellboy.
It looked like a cosplay. Like, how are you going to compare to people like Ron Perlman and who's the other guy? Is it Doug Jones, who does like a lot of the like heavy puppeteering stuff? Like directed by Guillermo del Toro. Like they would have had to have done perfectly to make it a good movie by most people's standards. And I think they just ended up missing the mark on too many things. That, like, it just didn't do great. That's my guess, as someone who also didn't see it.
Wow, the moment you mentioned it, because I remember we were talking the other time about Stranger Things, and you were just like, because I said something to the equivalent of, he will always be Hopper in my heart, and you're like, that's big things to say about the guy who played Hellboy, and I'm like, man, I wonder when that movie comes out.
That both speaks to how good of a role he was as Hopper, and how good that role was as a whole, and also how bad Hellboy was to make it not something that you remember.
Jeez. Aside from that, I will say, just like the previous seasons, the child actors are fantastic. Finn Wolfhard is one of my favorite actors right now, and I'm so excited to see what he does in the future. Because what was the other film that he did? Well, no, he was a voice actor in the Carmen Sandiego series, and it's like that kid's on fire. Everybody in that show is like Millie Bobby Brown.
Oh yeah.
Like, man, good things are going to be in the future for them.
Yeah.
But fantastic acting, especially everything that had to do between Dustin and Steve this season, just like the second season, made me so happy. Also, the whole theme of this season, which is like growing up and accepting things as they're going, while also like, you know, questioning things too. I liked that a lot, especially with the arc of Will's character.
I thought he had I really liked his arc, and something that I remember thinking of in the moment but didn't remember until I read a little bit more about it. There's a pretty interestingly accepted theory that Will might be gay, and like they really slid it in like really subtly into like how that's possible.
How so?
It basically boils down to there's one specific line where Will was about to like ride away from the failed D&D group in the rain on his bike, and Mike basically shouts at Will about how it's not his fault that that he's not into girls. Some people took that as like he just hadn't like matured enough to grow out of like the icky girl phase. Other people took that as he just straight up doesn't like girls like at all, and that's just like not who he is. And apparently I think it was like even the actor himself who just straight up said that like it's up to interpretation. Which, if that's true, I think that's a great way to like handle that kind of character and not just like make it their only personality.
Yeah, that's kind of like why I liked Rosie a lot, because they made her character super dynamic, and the fact that she is interested in girls, like that's not a main defining thing of her character. It's how she's like slowly warming up to Steve, and because like there's like that whole sort of bitterness to their relationship in the beginning.
Yeah. And
I will say that I still really liked your theory of her being possibly a Russian.
Yeah.
And I was a little disappointed that it didn't happen.
Yeah. Like, to me it seemed way too, like, coincidental that she happened to speak 4 languages that she specifically mentioned weren't Russian, and that was able to, like, decipher Russian and, like, get it literally perfectly.
My question is, how long did it take for them to translate that? Because it could have been, like, over the course of a day, or, like, 2 days, or a week.
I think they said it was a day. I think they, like, said that when they albeit they were drugged, but I don't think the season covered all that much time.
Yeah, no, it definitely felt super short, because the time gap...
It ended on the 4th of July, and, like, we're there when Hopper's talking to the mayor or whoever about, like, the 4th of July celebration later in the week. So, like, the whole thing is in, like, less than a week, it seems like. So they had to have, like, deciphered that pretty damn quickly.
Which would lead to,
Which also added to, like, how did she do that?
Yeah.
I took, like, close to, like, a decade's worth of Spanish classes. I could not decipher Spanish, like, code for, like, to literally save my life.
I think my one complaint, though, with the season is because it happens in such a short period of time and there's so many characters that you're following, I feel like I need like a small refresher on what each character is doing before I see their scenes. Where it's like, focusing on the kids trying to set up like the radio tower, and you jump to Nancy doing stuff with like the publication, and then you jump to Hopper talking to Joyce about how her magnets don't work, and like I felt like there are some periods of time where it's like, okay, I need to pause. I'm going to go back, watch this scene again so that I know what's going on with this.
I actually liked the way that they did the pacing in this season because I noticed them do it in the second season a lot when I did a rewatch of it for the third season, where they will cut on a particular action and then that action will follow through in the next scene, but with like different people. Like it was near the end where Joyce and Hopper were driving away from the carnival after hearing that there was stuff going on at the at Starcourt, the mall area, and like then it cut back to the kids that were at the mall when like Billy was like terrorizing them, and they had I think they had like the monster inside at that point.
Yeah.
And then it cut to Dustin and Steve on the hill working with the radio. But then when Steve sees something wrong, he starts running down the hill, but we don't see like what his plan is. Then we eventually cut back to the mall where Billy's about to like run everyone over, and then we see a car come in and hit Billy's car, which I thought they did that really cleverly, because I assumed that that was Joyce and Hopper hitting them, because we saw them driving in the car. But it was actually Steve, who we didn't see get in the car, so we weren't like sure who it was going to be. Which, like, you can kind of see it as a cop-out of, like, you know, we didn't see him get in the car, so it's just kind of like a Deus Ex Machina kind of thing. But I think that's just a clever, like,
well, that's not
way
the
of
thing that I was
filming
like.
and
That's not
showing
the thing
things
that I was
progress.
sort of talking about. The main thing that I was talking about was how it's like earlier in the season where it's like all the characters are so spread out, where it's like there's something integral that happens in the plot here, and then there's this part that's kind of a filler bit, and then this is integral, and then they talk about new Coke for a period of time, and they go to like other shit that's going on, and I don't know, I feel like it was just a lot for me to take in, because the way that I watched the show, I didn't really pace it out. I watched it over the course of 2 days, half the season one day, half the season the next, and I feel like just because of the way that I watch shows and media in general, where I sort of like binge it, like if it's all available, then I will watch all of it. I think that's definitely like, it's just a flaw in the way that I watch it, and maybe not a problem with the show. But yeah,
I will say, like, the one thing I will say about this, just like hard to do with things like this. Even Game of Thrones had similar problems with this, where it's hard to tell when things are happening in like reference to everything else. Like are they happening at the same time in different places? Is this like a chronological telling, and like it just happens to be like in that way? Like it gets hard to tell, especially when like half of the people are like in an underground Russian facility where you don't have any form of time to know like how long they've been down there.
I think that's like honestly what threw me off the most. Like you hit the nail on the head there. Is just like know what time events are happening, knowing what's going on. Like it just got a little frustrating. But aside from that, still a fantastic series. Highly recommend watching it if you have not already. You can take the spoiler tag down at this point. Definitely go and watch first season, second season, third season. Give them a lot of support, because even if at some point they stop, well, they definitely will. They won't milk this dry, I hope. But
apparently there is a Stranger Things season 3 game.
But the game is a lot of fun.
Oh,
like
never mind.
I've seen gameplay and stuff, and it looks great. But as far as the series goes, regardless of what happens to it, I want to continue to support the Duffer Brothers because they definitely know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Until they have to direct the next Star Wars movies, and so they rush the final season.
Oh my god, don't. Some wounds will never heal.
Just kidding. It's Star Trek.
Some wounds will never heal. You know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, thank you for. I almost just burped or vomited. I don't know, but I stopped myself.
I think you did burp, but you almost vomited.
Cool. Anyways, is there anything else you want to talk about, or should we wrap things up? Because it is an hour and 10 minutes.
I mean, I think we covered enough stuff.
All right. Well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case, thank you for listening to this week's episode. Next week, hopefully, roughly same time for the upload. Sorry about being late with the previous one. It's because I'm stupid.
Were we late?
Aside from that, though, yeah, we uploaded on Saturday, I believe.
We always upload on Saturday.
I thought we uploaded on Fridays.
We've been uploading on
Well,
Saturday.
that just shows the miscommunication right there. But
Right.
yeah, I'm Corey.
I'm Jake.
And we'll see you at some point